Hey friends, you're watching BrainStormAcres. I'm Henry. Once again, Irene and I are going in two different directions. I'm on my way to take a look at something that may just solve our water problem. In the meantime, Irene has a few things to do in the kitchen.
Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres. And this morning we've been really busy in the kitchen. Henry helped me can up a bunch of tomato sauce, which is still in the pressure cooker over here. It's cooling down now, and in another half hour or so, we'll be able to open up the top and let that set until it's ready to put on the shelf. Got to label it first. But I was doing a bunch of other stuff this morning. Harvested the green beans, put those away. Still need to harvest more tomatoes. I know, we just finished. I told Henry, I said, I hate to tell you this, I'm going to fill the counter with tomatoes. And he's like, oh good. And I'm like, yeah. Anyway, it is actually oh good. But I think we have 14 jars of tomato sauce from this morning's canning episode, and that will be 14 weeks of pizza. We can most of our tomato sauce in 1 cup batches because this size is the perfect size for us for pizza. It's just the right amount of sauce. So, but what I wanted to pop into this morning to talk about was I did the sort of things, we do lots of things around here that we don't think about. And this morning, one of the things I did was I noticed that some of the dill plants, the seeds were really done on them. They've just started to fall off. But I thought, you know, there is a slight trick to harvesting dill. The biggest trick is letting it dry completely. So these seed heads here have been in the house for a while. I just have a basket over in the corner that I toss them into. Lets them get plenty of air circulation and everything else. And all I do is the individual little seed head things here, I just gently squish them with my fingers a little bit. And the seeds fall off, and I normally put them right into a jar. There'll be some that bounce off, so make sure your counter is clean so that you can just dust them in. But they come right off. Now, if I were to try that same thing with the seed heads directly out of the garden, you could really tell how much more moisture they have in them. I leave some percentage of seed heads on until like they're bone dry outside, because I do want the plants to naturally reseed. We don't normally plant dill here, we normally just let it come up. And that's worked really well for us because it'll pop up in between other things. Like we've got a bunch of dill right now. Most of this came out of the potato bed, and I was over there looking because I'm thinking I need to harvest some of those potatoes, and I noticed that some of the dill had heads that were really, I mean, these are beautiful big seeds. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for seeds that are beautiful and big and that the heads are clean. One of the problems we have here sometimes is that will get aphids. So I noticed that like there was another one I looked at and I went, no, the seed head is covered with aphids. And I just, bleh, I don't want to try and have to clean off the aphids before I harvest the seeds. So we normally get enough seeds from just doing it this way. We don't do anything fancy. Now, if you canned a lot, you would probably need, and we do actually have some commercially purchased dill, but I always use up the stuff that we grow first, and Henry seems to be real happy with it. So, you know, so if you could see the counter, I have made a mess. I have little seeds that have squirted all over the place, but it's one of those, it needs to be done over something. So what I did was I just cleaned the counter and made sure there was no dust or flour or anything else on it. And then anything that falls on the counter, I take out the big stalks. I don't worry about the little teeny tiny, like quarter of an inch long things, because those are just basically dill weed. And I don't think there's a recipe out there that will totally explode if you have an extra piece of dill weed in it with your dill seed. So just a hint as to how to get your seeds to come off better. Now, I will not immediately close this up. I'm going to stick this in the corner, and I'll probably, like, loosely, this is an old jelly jar, I'll probably loosely cover it. If I was really concerned about how moist it was, I would probably not even put the lid on it. I try and keep things out of it. You know, you find that things, you know, you don't want a dead fly to fall in there or something like yucky like that. So I won't put it on tight, but I'll leave it so it's got some air circulation. And obviously when I'm doing things, sometimes I'll just leave things open, and that makes sure that there's not extra moisture. One of the big tricks to having things like seeds preserve well is making sure they are bone dry. Historically, I have usually hung things like my lavender gets hung on strings in a walk-in closet. So it's in the shade, it's dry, and it stays there. And usually within a couple of weeks, it's sort of raining a little bit of lavender down on me, and that's how I notice it's dried, because the stems will shrink in the strings or even in the rubber bands, and sometimes they shrink just enough to start dropping a little bit of lavender on me. I want it to be really dry so that I can make sachets or anything else I want to out of it. That lavender is also organic, so it would be safe for cooking if you wanted to use the flowers or the stems or anything else in your food. So just a couple little hints. Hope you enjoyed this. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because obviously we are always doing something. So until next time, bye.